get your cursing out now, or just don't record it. Don't worry about it.
It'll be awkward
Well,
when you hand off the introduction to your colleagues. That's going to be the weird part.
I know because I'm
Oh,
last in that spiel. All right. Good
uh-huh.
afternoon, everybody. It is National Office Hours for November 9th. I'm Andrea Singh. I'm Andrea Singh Rio, and with me today is Gary. I'm going to let him take it from here.
You did great. Let me share my screen. Pop this up. Hey everyone. So thanks for joining in. So for those of you who joined this, if that title looks familiar, Build Better Apps Faster, an intro to Power Platform Copilots. When I was asked, hey, can you demo some of the copilots? I didn't have a title, so I just basically stole that. So if you search for that title from somewhere else, you'll see a great long article with, I guess, some little bits and pieces of some of the things that I'll show. So thanks for coming in. So in the spirit of copilots, right, in all things going AI, the image itself, right, like after we switched it to, I would say, the higher number for like DALL-E in the back end, I was surprised, like, wow, the hands actually look good. So this is one of those creations where it, when it finally showed up and it looked the way that I wanted to, like, whoa, I will keep that one. So you can see this one was made pretty recently. So I've been on a couple of these calls, listened in to just kind of get a feel for the crowd, right? As far as like what kinds of things people are looking for. So this being sounded like, more of an IT kind of crowd. I wanted to target it, kind of aim it more towards for you all. So I don't have a ton of slides. I only have 46 slides, right? Of which, and then, 3 maybe surveys at the end, but should go by really quickly. So my name is Gary Sarhalis. I'm a technical specialist, right? So in general, that just means sales, but I'm more on the technical side. So I get brought in, right, to say, hey, we've had these discussions. We want to actually prove that these tools can do what you say they can. So where the rubber meets the road, I'll create something. But at the end of the day, it's more along the lines of, hey, I don't want to just show you something that you might think is slideware. I'll actually show what's under the hood to take it to build it. So that's going to be more along the lines of what I'll do here today. So not a lot of slides, but it's going to be mostly demonstration. I don't expect to get through all the Power Platform Copilots, but if you have questions, and if I don't get kicked out and Andrea says it's okay, and if there's something you want to hear more about, we can do either a breakoff session, or I could come back and do something a little bit more targeted to what you're interested in. So me, Gary Sarhalis is based out of Austin, Texas. I'm very passionate about low code, no code. So I just got my certification for Citizen Developer Business Architect, right? So that's coming from PMI. And that's I would say, a platform agnostic methodology, right? So whether you're using Power Platform or not, on how to stick the landing, so to speak, right? So that you can have a successful center of excellence with your, constituents, right? If low code, no code is something that you're looking at. So this is kind of what I'm hoping to get through today. 30 minutes isn't a long time, especially if anything happens along the way through. This is going to be live demo, right? So I don't know what's going to happen all the way through if something happens. So let's just hope, since it's recording, everything goes great. So these are the topics that I'll cover. And you can see, like, most of the meat in the middle is actually doing, right, and showing you how these things are done. So just a couple of slides. So why low code? Why no code? Right, some numbers. So if you haven't heard or seen these kinds of things, or even seen this within your own organization, more and more apps are coming. There's a shortfall of developers. So those institutions that are teaching computer science or business IT, even with all those efforts, there's still going to be a shortfall of developers. And then the final bullet that you'll see right there is more and more things are going more towards low code. So why low code? And then so low code, specifically why Microsoft, right? If you haven't heard or not really being too exposed to it, we have several different things that we call connectors or APIs, things that will, I would say, connect the dots, right? So for those of you who think, hey, Microsoft's trying to take over the world, they want to take all our toys away, like, no. As you can see right here, we have lots of connectors for all kinds of, I would say, places, tools, and toys that others would consider maybe our competitors, but we complement those, right? And so we want people to be able to connect their things. So lots of connectors, lots of different tools and toys that you'll see here. And just a GIF that's supposed to say over 9,000, but I cut out the words. So why Power Platform, why low code, and then now why AI, right? So I know some organizations are more maybe risk averse. Some people aren't allowed to turn these kinds of things on. But not on here, right? By the time this survey came out, 71% of these organizations were already using AI pretty heavily, trying to learn and get ahead of it. So big numbers here, though, right? So for every dollar spent, you could get $8 back. I remember, I think it was before the quote unquote era of copilots. I would start conversations maybe with CTOs, CIOs, and say, what if I could show you how to save $1 million? Or what if you could earn an extra $1 million, right? So now these numbers are a little bit more concrete on how to do that with just AI alone. And so, like I said, in the spirit of AI plus low code, no code, right? And so we have these things called the Power Platform Copilots. So, you'll hear the word copilot used pretty heavily. So just to make things a little clear, right? So when I say copilot, not autopilot, right? Even though some people might be fearful that AI will take their jobs, right? Those same people, those same respondents that are worried about that, if you ask them, would you use AI on you for your job? Oh yeah, heck yeah, I would, right? So now that we have a little bit more, I would say measurements, right, from the past few months, these are some of the metrics that are coming out with using the Power Platform Copilots. So for those of you, like if I'm saying Power Platform and it sounds like something new, or I hear it a lot, someone says Power Apps, Power Automate, where does it all lie? As you can see right here, the only thing missing is PowerPoint. So I'm not bitter or anything like that, but I thought November 1st I would be able to just build this with a Copilot, but no, I had to do this deck all by myself, right? So these are first world problems. So today I do want to highlight, I'll start with Power Automate, right, to show more of the personal productivity stuff. Power Apps, I will show how maybe if I can get to it, Power BI is embedded with all of these, right? Keeping business analytics in mind. I will go into Power Virtual Agents. That's something that's been very, very popular in the last few months, especially with the copilots being able to like pretty much write in natural language, write what you want it to do, and then Power Pages. So even today, I'm playing catch up with being gone for the last 3 weeks. So many new features came with Power Pages that I had to try out. So we'll see if it works out here for me on this live demo pretty shortly. So being an IT centric crowd, I'm not sure if there's developers here in the audience or not, or you work directly with those folks, or you might have an organization that's not very heavy on it, right? So when I talk low code, no code, even on some calls today, people put their guard up. I'm not saying that low code gets rid of developers. If anything, it helps them paint with a broader brush, right? So as soon as I can, if I'm talking really deep in the weeds, nerding out with folks about GitHub, .NET, and then showing like, see all those things that you're doing, like, look at this, right? So even if we're just talking about GitHub Copilot, right, to keep you from making mistakes, we can keep it taking it further up the stack, right, closer and closer to natural language. So I'll be getting into that today too. So English as a coding language, this slide is pretty much just showing like what we're trying to do is I would say even the playing field, right? So getting things done, reaching automation, hyper automation. If it's something that you can describe or speak to that should be repeatable, those kinds of things are more and more moving more towards the natural language stack that you're going to see all the way up on the top. What AI does for Power Platform kind of covered this. And so today, with just low code adoption, how it's been working out. So some of the organizations I'll work with, they're at different levels of maturity. Some of them are not as mature because they haven't stood up maybe a center of excellence, or they have some tinkerers here and there, or some organizations block it altogether, and then say, oh no, we didn't realize that because we didn't have this available, people have been like popping up all kinds of other apps, right? Some kind of shadow AT on the side versus being able to use what's available with Power Platform. So now with the introduction of the AI Copilot, what we're trying to do is raise that a little bit higher. And then so hopefully what you see from here, right, as far as what I'm able to show you with just low code, no code kinds of stuff, this will make a little bit more sense as far as like, hey, if I can use SharePoint, I might already have the ability to be using Power Platform. And then if I get to it also, one of the examples I'll have is like you can just build an app right from something that's already started, right, with either Excel or a SharePoint list. So yeah, that's my note to stop talking. And so I'm going to just get some stuff prepared on this screen. And what I would say is, in preparing for this, I was going to do it live, but I realized that the answers are really, really long when I would say, hey, what should I build for this kind of group, right? So I tried it with my demo tenant, and then one without a misspelling and one with, and got, great answers. And then I thought, no, I'm just going to show you what I'm currently building right now. So that way I don't have to throw something else away, right? So what I'll be going through is just a couple of things that I might be in the middle of working on. I was hoping to have like one cohesive story, but I think here the theme or the thing I wanted to show was like, you know, you might not be telling one story. It sounds like, especially you might be throwing situation after situation. They're not related at all. So how would you deal with something like that? So I'll cover that shortly too. So this is something that I've been putting in some of my decks. Basically, you'll see what I mean in a bit, where as you're using copilots, you can use a copilot to add a copilot. And so, your copilot gets a copilot. I'll leave this here. This is the call to action slide. And so I'm not sure if this is something I'll put towards the end, but I want to make sure you have all the links now. So that way, if I get cut short or anything like that, these are some of the things that you can take with you, either to reach out to me and my team, right? If you have questions or if you have any kind of business cases, or hey, that thing that Gary showed me, what is that called, right? So what I found is, especially with how quickly we're changing and creating capabilities, we just don't know what they're called. So this is one way to help kind of map what those things are. So without further ado, I'm just going to
Gary's
go.
awesome. He used live PowerPoint Live, so I hope you clicked those links, friends.
So let's start building on the fly, right? So kind of like a cooking show, I have some examples that are already kind of pre-baked, just in case some things don't go through or if I misspell something. But I guess we're just going to go on turbo mode. So for those of you who are not familiar with Power Automate, Power Platform, and everything like that, people will typically start here, make.powerapps.com. I use the preview in here only because I don't want to get left behind if they add some new features that that I'll see pop up later on. So make.powerapps.com or make.preview.powerapps.com will get you to where you need to be. Navigation's pretty simple, right? As you can see, like we're trying to create like a one-stop shop to be able to do this. This format you see here, and kind of the eye is already trained to see when you see that little sparkle, means that this is a capability that's going to be tied to a Copilot, right? Where you can just type what you want. So you'll see this, theme happening throughout. So this is just the general navigation. Tables are data, so that's data you create here. It might be data that you have possibly in Oracle, SharePoint, SQL. But as soon as you bring that data into this, you're able to connect to it fair game, right? Be able to speak to it, write to it. And if there's data that you're currently working on, right, with APIs, you can connect that to here too. Flows, which will also be called Power Automate. I'll cover that in a section. This is what I would call where people start from, right? Would be the plumbing. Chatbots would be Power Virtual Agents, and AI Hub. I might have to save that for another session, but I will try to introduce some kind of like AI, natural language or foreign language translation, or even like, scan a document for its content and move it somewhere else, right? So I'll try to show some of that too. So like I mentioned, people usually start here, I would say, on the automation side. And so this one is called Power Automate. So I say people usually start here with the plumbing, right? Meaning there is something that they were trying to do for themselves, and then they wanted to automate it. Um, Something that I won't cover here today that you'll hear, like RPA, robotic process automation. This is the story I always hear, which is, hey, this student or this intern at this school, whether it's on the medical side, this, that, and the other, their job was to copy and paste things or screen scrape, click on this link, copy data. They eventually find that, hey, they can record those steps and then just run it. Someone catches wind of that, either in a good way or bad way, like, why aren't you doing your work? Like, I push this button, it's already doing my work. In my situation, for instance, like we have like a cell phone expense bill, right? And so I can automate that process if I wanted to every month. So if you hear something like that, that's also under the same umbrella for Power Automate, and that thing is called robotic process automation. So I won't get into that. So right to begin with, before I say anything about the Copilots with Power Automate, um, we have these things called templates, right? So what we were trying to do is make it very easy for people to do things that are very common over and over again. So they're already, I would say, categorized, right? Like remote work, approval type of things, data collection, right? Top picks. And you can see like little things in here, like anytime someone does this, do something like that. So I would say, because this is a little bit more mature, if there's something that you're trying to do, just type it and it'll usually find it. If it's not, then but just as easily, what I wanted to show here was, hey, go ahead and just type what you're trying to do, right? So for here, you're seeing here's some suggestions. One of the ones that I'll do is, it's already probably showing up here. Send a Teams chat reminder every month on the 15th for people to submit their expenses. So, this is just showing a simple one, right? So, okay, recurrence, whenever this thing happens, do this, post a message in a chat or channel. Is this what you're looking for? Kind of, right? Um, so what it's doing behind the scenes is it's kind of just building, I would say, the stub for it. I didn't tell it which chat to put it in. I didn't say really where to go, and then what exactly to say to it. So what it's doing behind the scenes is saying, okay, based on what you said, Gary, these are some of the things that we're going to need. So I'll have it go ahead and create the flow for me. For those of you who already built flows before, you'll notice that this particular look and feel with all the dots is a little bit different. This is the new Copilot experience. So what you're seeing here, if I uncheck this, is the Copilot. So instead of draggy droppy, or in addition to dragging dropping kinds of things, you can just say, add this and that, add a step for X, Y, and Z. So even here, it's kind of guiding you along the way. And if I hit save, it would take it to the next step for you to be able to do that. Um, so that's usually just how people get started, and that's what we're trying to do, right? Like, by using these things called copilots, hey, it's not scary. So even if you make a mistake, that's fine, right? Just throw it away. Just make sure you weren't impacting any data, making any changes to things. But what if I gave you a head start? And so going back to one of the slides I had in the beginning, right, saying, hey, people are 65% more successful, right? Because I hate to say it, you fail faster, but you learn quicker, right? Oh, or I have an example of something that I can just tear apart and mess with. So, for those of you never seen Power Automate before, um, lots of cool stuff in here, right? So I pre-baked, so to speak, one that looks like that, like on the 25th of every month, um, send this message out to a Teams channel, right? Another one would have been, let's see, the one that I started. It says I just put this one together is, notify me on Teams when I receive an email with a negative sentiment. So this was the prompt I actually used to go type it and create it, and this was me testing it. But if I wanted to play around with it, here it is, right? So I'm not scared anymore of like breaking anything, because I didn't really put a lot of effort into making something like this. So this thing is set up. If I receive an email, it's doing some stuff, and if the email is bad, right, I want it to post to a chat, right? So basically, this saying, "Hi, I got an email that sounded not so friendly. Here's what you do with it." But you can have a little bit more fun, right? Because this is already something got started. Maybe I want to go add something to it, right? Like maybe I want to add text or get some kind of attention. So I did see that this existed, and then I thought it was a joke, but it's not. So let's see. I can add a random Chuck Norris fact. I don't know what rules are here, but now that I've got something grabbing a Chuck Norris fact, let's see if I have to change anything in here. Pick a category. Ooh. Uh, if this is recorded and I say something that's not safe for work, sorry. Don't share this with your kids. So I'll say career. Career sounds safe, right? And then I want to put that message that comes out of here in here. So Chuck Norris
Gary, don't
says.
make me edit this and figure out how to beep words.
Chuck Norris says, huh? I don't know what you mean. Let's see. Here. Sorry, I have my camera is right blocking that screen. So Chuck Norris. Oh, where'd it go? Sorry, my face is covering this. Yeah, we can use this one for this insert function, or you can use this or the other. But yeah, let's see. Did I have it in here? Function? No, not function. I'm clicking there it is. Sorry. Mm, yes, get that. And I'll hit save. Anyways, so you can play around with this. I'll test it real quick. Let me make sure it's good. No errors are found. Next. Okay. So I think I'm good. I'll say test, manually, test. Okay, so I got to send myself an email. Uh, I'm just trying to make sure it sounds negative. So if this sounds like something, we'll just see what it sounds like. I'm just going to put the word negative. I'll hit send. And so while that's cooking, basically I'm just testing the flow, right? So this is just me playing around, right? So what if this was you or any of your constituents who are actually needing to build something? They'll be a little bit more motivated to make something work, right? Play around with it. But this Copilot, along with draggy droppy kind of stuff, makes it easy. So here's the email. And I hope I set it to come to this email, right? Because usually, if you imagine, what if you had an email box that wasn't your email box, but maybe like a group email box or something that's for like customer service related? That's where you'd want it to go. Um, oh shoot. So I switched off, sorry, but you can see that it went through the flow. Here's what's going on here. And then I had this go to a particular channel or chat, right? And so, and yeah, so this is my demo environment. So it looks like I talk to myself a lot because it's just me, right? So that's me testing that one. I don't remember what channel I've sent it to. Recruiting. That's yesterday's test. Let's see, where did I send it? Skipped settings. No, I don't want the code view. Go back. Yeah, it would show up under activity, but I put it in a specific, I picked the channel, or I should have picked the channel for I wanted to go to in this configuration. So I said, post it to a Teams channel. Which Teams channel? So project focus sales team general. Okay, project focus team. Where'd it go? Well, that's why we do stuff on the fly, right? Let's see what happened with it. I tested it. Said it succeeded. Happened 1 minute ago. Well, I tried, right? There we go. Considered it false, not true. But I guess you get what I was trying to accomplish here. So this is just a bit like, right, like this is that was a small example of being able to do things like that. And so this one is a flow that might be a little bit more advanced, but then uses what I would say uh, an AI model within an AI model itself, right? So what I'll do is I'll just take this. So you might have seen these before. So I work with state departments of education pretty often, right? So I get a lot of things where things have to come in as a PDF, right? And so in this particular case, I have a bullying form, but I want it to be really easy. So in this particular case, I'll say anytime, right, that flow that's showing right here, anytime I have a document that shows up in SharePoint, this is something I did with natural language, go ahead and parse it and go run it through this, which is performs, right? Like go read it, run the AI model on it, and then put the information somewhere where I can go test it and then tell me like the confidence score, right? As far as like how good is that data. So if I'm grabbing some of these documents here, I'm trying to place them in here. Is it shared documents? Okay. Come on. I'll just dump a bunch of documents in here. Let's see. So same thing, right? Like, so I just said, hey, anytime I upload a document in here, what it's going to do behind the scenes is it's going to go parse it, run it through, send Gary an email, let him know how that document looks. Like, what is the confidence score on it? And if you take it a step further, like, hey, if something's like 90-something% good enough, let it go, right? Or if something is lower than something else, maybe I need to manually review it. So let's just see how this ran. So as you can see, I'm running an AI model. So depending on the document, like some of these are still running. You probably can't hear it, but I'm getting a chime right here letting me know that I've got some of these that are being processed. So for instance, this document got through, it's been processed, and it's got an 85% confidence score, right? So didn't have to build anything from scratch. All I had to do was create the mapping. And then if I go look at what does that look like for me here today, and I refresh this document came through. This is what the document looked like or is still processing. But this is what the document looks like right now. And as it's processing, you'll see like, here's all the fields, right, that came from it. And so let's say I grab an older one, like this one said at 99% confidence score of these documents. If I go to the tables that it's reading, right, meaning the more complex data that I read from it, here's what I got from it. And if I say this looks good, great, right? I'll just push a button or something like this to make it go. So this is something that's pretty easy to set up, uses AI, and then I used AI to build this one itself too. So my alerts are going off like crazy because I dumped more documents than I probably should have, but this is what it's doing, right? Just telling you the confidence score and whether I need to review these documents. So in general, Power Automate, right? So whether you've got like a very simple case, like the one that I couldn't get to work properly, or something a little bit more complicated, this is where I would say we start with the plumbing. Let's see if it showed up. No, okay. Let me just go to the chat real quick. Any questions on just in general Power Automate as far as like what I mentioned about plumbing before I move to something else? Okay. Yes.
Just to give you a time check, you have 2 minutes to do something else.
Oh, wow. All right. So, so this being an IT group, what I'll just say is like, okay, same thing, right? You just use natural language. If I have something which is like everybody's favorite, I would say database like Excel. If I started with that, I could upload an Excel document or Excel spreadsheet. It would create the application for you with all the buttons, everything like that. Same thing goes with, hey, if I have just an image, right? Let's say you're working with a customer and they know what they want it to look like, what they want it to do. You could start with the image. But all these other tools are available here for you to be able to do it too. So I'll just go ahead and create this one. So this being an IT group, this is probably something that you get often is right? So what this is doing is saying natural language. It's thinking through what the questions I had. It's also in the context of what I asked, even to come up with maybe some of the dummy data for it, right? Same thing here, this Copilot thing, like add a column for the person who has this certification, right? And it's going to go write that. And provide the date that it was earned. And let's say I'm happy with how this is completed, right? So what I would do is I would just create the app. So I'm just going to create this, not to say that this would have been where you would have ended, but you would have gotten something like, you know, a scenario like this, where not only does it create the data for you, create the app for you, you can change this the way that you want, but you can also, it also comes with a Copilot, right? So you can ask it like, you know, who has an expired certification? So it's an app within an app building and stuff. So unfortunately, I guess I'm out of time.
We would love to
I
have
had
you
2 more to
back,
go.
Gary. We would love to have you back. He's got 2 more. We always have weeks when we need presenters. And so we'll just go ahead and sign you up. I'll send you a message for your next date right following this. Aaron, quick question.
Nope, just looking to hit the applause. I thought that was great.
Oh, applaud away. I agree. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording.